there's this like like it's just uncomfortable to have to say no to friends, right? So often because it feels like you're letting the other person down. But it's also like I may not have the capacity to do XYZ for you, or like show up for you in this way here, but I will in this way.
Hi, I'm Danielle, and welcome back to Making Space. Not just a podcast, but a place for honest, open conversations about where people have been and who they're becoming. So I'm excited to be back here with you today on the podcast. I know it's been a minute, but I'm coming today with another episode on friendship. And we have had some previous episodes on friendship, which I will link below. They're all amazing. But I am really excited about today's episode because I feel like our conversation is about the hard parts of friendship. It's about when friendship doesn't look so pretty. It's about the work that goes into friendship. And I think I've been reflecting a lot more on friendship even recently, even since this episode was recorded, because life happens. And how do you navigate changes in friendship? How do you navigate changes in yourself and how that impacts how you show up as a friend? So I think those are some of the things that we discuss in today's episode. And especially as someone who has kind of prided themselves on being a good friend, I mean, this podcast is rooted in friendship. Every episode I have a friend on. I think it's been interesting for me to see what happens when I can't show up as the friend that I have been able to show up as in the past, because life changes, season changes. Um, being in law school changes you. So I think those were just some of the things that I was thinking about going into this episode, and I'm just so excited for you to hear it. And I'm also excited for you to meet my friend Tracey. We originally met a few months before my first year of law school through like a pre-law program, but we didn't actually become friends until the school year started. And she has just become one of my closest friends. She's truly a ray of sunshine and like a little sister to me, even though she's like the mature little sister. So you're like, actually, who's the younger one here? But yeah, I think we had a great conversation. And without further ado, let's get into it. So, what is something you have learned or that you're currently learning that you wish your younger self could have known?
That's a good question. I would have to say probably that it's more important to be myself than to be liked. Like, I think I spent a lot of my childhood and time, especially in high school. Like, I think as I got a little older, this changed, but I spent a lot of time in high school thinking that it was more important to conform to what other people were doing. So, like, the way people dressed, the way people behaved. I think even now I still see it a little bit in like law school. Like, naturally people complain a little bit more, and it's so easy to like meet people exactly with what they're saying, like say, oh, I feel the exact same way, even if you don't, just because it's the mutual consensus that everyone should feel this way. When truthfully, I think that like being true to who I am is most important, and also it like just exemplifies like when I'm surrounded by people that like accept me for who I am, that I'm in the right space rather than being someone else and looking around me and realizing like I don't know if I'm representing myself the way I want to here. You know, like I don't know, I found that like there was a period of time where I thought I was the person to blame completely if someone else just didn't like me. Like I was being bubbly, I was being energetic, and they were just meeting me with like, I was like, okay, I have to change. Like, what did I do wrong in this? And I don't know, I think as I've gotten older, I realized like sometimes it's not you. Sometimes you and another person might just not be the same, or might not have like some sort of commonality that makes it a comfortable friendship. But at the same time, like that doesn't mean that I need to change. And I don't know. I wish I spent a lot of my like time in high school not wishing I was like cool or accepted, but just like being myself. And I think I've seen that in the friendships I have today that I'm still close with. Like, there are a lot of people in high school that I just am not as close with anymore because I don't think I was truly who I am. You know, like, I was just pretending to be this type of cool person to fit in. But the people that I'm still extremely close with just, like, know me through and through. Like, and I really appreciate that I have never felt the need to, like, conform or adapt for their friendship, you know?
Yeah, I love that. And so when do you feel like you came to that realization? Like,
I
was it
honestly think,
gradual? Was it...
yeah, I think that it took graduating college because I feel like there was a time frame in college too where, because growing up in a, like, in spaces that were predominantly white, I think that there's like this there was like a running joke with a lot of my friends at church that, like, I was a certain way, like, with them, and they assumed I might be a little different when I'm at school with, like, a lot of my friends that weren't African or, like, Black.
Yeah.
And so I actually do think that I spent a lot of time, it felt like I was conforming more in the spaces that weren't Black just because I had grown up with a lot of Ghanaians at church. So they knew me. Like, there was nothing that I had to do to kind of, like, make friends there. It was just like, we've grown up together. Like, we're friends. It's as simple as that. Versus, like, I found myself, especially in college, like, in the beginning stages at least, wanting to make friends, fit in. So, like, just, I don't know, I think I was surrounded by, like, things and people that may not have been the best for me. And I think that once I graduated, I got the chance to just, like, it wasn't like a new start, but it was more like, I guess it was a new start. I would say it was literally just like a new start because I'm starting a new job. I'm living at home. I am a little bit more, like, you can be a little bit more intentional, I think, in friendship forming. Like, you're not just surrounded by the same people every day, but now you are living in your home and you have to make the time to see your friends. So, like, I think that's when I decided to, like, actually reflect on patterns, behaviors, things that I felt at least might not be what I want to be doing in my life, and then also might not be representing who I am. So I just felt like I had the time to be more introspective once I graduated. And I also had more time on my hands because it was a 9 to 5 versus, like, what the future might look like. You know, like, I actually had the ability, just, like, I journaled a lot more right when I graduated. Like, I remember I really wanted to do a solo trip. I realized, like, I actually like my time alone, and I didn't really think that when I was in college. Like, I was often just, like, running to this or this or this, and I also wasn't really just, like, sitting with myself and thinking of how I am feeling about things. Like, I would just go to the next person, go to the next person, go to the next person. And I think that graduating was, like, at first it was weird to have so much alone time, but I wanted to use that and see just, like, what fills my cup, how do I want to represent myself, you know, things like that.
Yeah, and I will say there's something, like, in hindsight, there's something so nice about just, like, having more control over the people that you choose to be in your life. And that only happens, like, when you're not in school, to be honest. Because, like, when you're in school, it's just, like, naturally, like, the people that you're in classes with, the people that live around you, like, there is some built-in just, like, what's the word, proximity-based friendships. And maybe they're not, like, maybe some of them are, like, your really good friends. Some of them maybe you wouldn't, like, necessarily choose on your own. And it's not until after that ends that you kind of, like, see the sifting start to happen on its own. And then it's like, oh, now it's, like, the people I chose. Or, like, the people at work that I chose that I wanted to be friends with. Especially outside of work and things like that. So I just think that's so interesting how that kind of coincided.
Have you ever heard the, like, term optics?
Yes.
Like, my mom, she has this thing where she always says this. She's like, well, sometimes it's optics. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And she's like, genuinely, in some spaces, like, even in, like, a work setting, there might be, like, a large friend group at work. And then there's the people you're really close with. But because there's a large friend group, you just have to kind of, like, adapt to being, like, in that friend group sometimes. And so, like, she'll emphasize that even with, like, church, like, growing up in church, she'll emphasize that the fact that we've all, not even all of us have grown up together, but the fact that, like, every single person in the church knows this or that person means, like, she definitely thinks, like, always lead with kindness, but she's also like, it's a little difficult to, like, clearly delineate these are my closest friends, and then everyone else is just like someone I know. So it's kind of difficult, I feel like, until you graduate and like have the chance to like actually say to your friends, we're gonna spend this time together, like since we aren't just in a college setting where everyone can just go to someone's dorm quickly, or like we're all gonna meet at the same things. I don't know, you get the chance to be more intentional, and I think that at least gives you the ability to like either form deeper connections and like deeper friendships, or realize where like what types of friends you want to have too. Like you might find yourself falling out with people, but maybe it was because of the proximity that you were close friends, and there was nothing really deep there. Like they don't actually know much about you outside of like your major, and like that's pretty much it. You know, like it's just it's pretty shallow, and that's fine. But you kind of realize what's more important too.
Yeah. And so how do you feel like for you friendship has changed as you've gotten older? I think it's like obviously a constant thing. Like we are all growing and changing every year, and like if you're changing, your friendships are also changing. And I know you've had like a lot of long-term friends, like friends that you've grown up with. Like how have those changed for you over time?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. I think that it was so easy. What we were talking about with proximity, it was so much easier growing up with, especially my church friends, that like I think it's easy to say like church friends, but like these are some of my best friends just because we've literally grown up together, and have been so vulnerable in life together that I don't know if every friend has seen that side of me. But I do think that one thing that's been difficult, there's a few, but one has been like becoming a long distance friendship. Like I don't know if when I was a kid and was excited to be a lawyer one day, if I even considered the idea of it being outside of DC or Virginia. Like I just never thought, oh, I'm gonna live out, like I'm gonna live far away from my family, I'm gonna live far away from these friends. And I don't think that it's like I think that was a good thing that I wasn't thinking that far in advance and like had everything planned out. But I also think that we were not expecting to have half of our friend group, like there's only 4 of us, but half of us living in different states. And so one of my best friends is in the army, and she is like in Texas, so very far from us, time difference, like she's also just at a different stage in her life. And I think that's the same thing with me too. Like being a law school student means I'm so much busier, but I also don't have the financial means that like my friend who has a like is getting paid every like she has an income, and so she has her own place. Like we're just in much different places. So I think it's been hard understanding too between all of us. Like we might have different ways of showing up for each other, which we really had to reassess at the beginning of this year. Like even if we can't physically like spend the money to like fly to this person, how can we still show up for you by like sending you something, or even just like getting on the phone more often, or actually asking you how you're doing? Because I think we also assume that unless a friend tells you that they're going through something, which we do often, like at least every few months we get on the phone and like we make a plan to pray for each other. So we like have a call where we pray for each other and say our prayer requests. But I think outside of that, it's like unless someone says, hey guys, like I'm going through this, I really need prayer on this, we're not really going out of our way to ask, what do you need prayer for? But also like, is there any way I can show up for you right now? Like, even though I'm far from you, you know, like genuinely. And so that's something that I've really seen, as I've just grown up, but also with the people I'm closest to, because I think it had gotten to a point with some of my closest friendships that like we couldn't go any longer without saying these things to each other, or we did not know what the friendship would look like. And it's so easy to leave things unsaid, but it was just damaging, like for all of us. Like all of us had something that we were holding in until someone burst, and on behalf of all of us, and we were like, wait, I have something to say too. Like we literally used that as a platform to all say grievances. And even at some point I was like, wait, are we taking away from your moment right now saying your grievance? But I also think that like it was just good for us to be like, I was like, let's get on the phone, y'all, because we all apparently have things to say. And I think those are just some of my closest friends. So that's like one area. But additionally, just long distance friendships, and like I'm a little bit more schedule oriented, and some of my friends are more spontaneous. So like they'll just say, oh my gosh, can you call right now? And I'm actually like, I can't. And the way my like day to day works, it's hard to do that. So can we like try to come up with like every few weeks we call and set this time? So like me and my close friend Seth will call every other week. and we know it can't be too long because he just like knows like I will start to get stressed out. So that's kind of how it works. Raising the question back to you, how do you feel like your friendships have changed, especially moving to New York when you didn't expect that? And then you moved before that. So even when that happened, like, do you think this is an additional question that I just decided to add, but do you think that there have been any differences after moving to Boston versus moving to New York?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Okay.
I think definitely. I think Boston, it was like my first time experiencing the long distance friendships. And at first I hated it. I hated it so much. And I remember I would tell my friends, like, I feel like half a person on FaceTime. Like, I'm not, like, it's just not the same. And I think over time you just get used to it and you, like, find different rhythms. And, like, we've talked about this on the podcast before, but, like, getting out of, like, catch-up culture where it's like, oh, we're just, like, talking about, like, oh, here's all the things that have happened in my life for the past, like, 2 weeks to 3 months, just, like, catch you up, and then it doesn't feel as fulfilling versus if it's just, like, hey, let's just talk about, like, things that are on our mind right now and how to, like, mimic, you know, like, the natural cadence of friendship if you were in the same place. But then I think moving to New York, like, I definitely think the busyness factor just, like, wrecked any idea of, like, yes, like, any idea of, like, a good friend that I thought I was, or, like, any, like, practices or, like, rhythms or, like, anything. I feel like everything just has changed. And I know it's temporary in a sense, but it's also, like, this is, like, kind of deep, but it's, like, it's temporary, but, like, these temporary things will have, like, a permanent impact, I feel like. You know, like, you can't just, like, pick up 3 years later and, like, everything be, like, exactly like it was 3 years prior when, like, your friendship has just changed in the past 3 years because your season of life has changed. So, yeah, I think that's still something I'm, like, thinking about. But also, like, I don't know, I feel like something God is challenging me in right now is to stop being so resistant to change. I think I am more, like, change resistant, and he's like, you need to just embrace it. But I just don't like, I don't like things changing. Like, once it changes, like, you get over it. But, like, it's so crazy. I, like, looking back, this was, like, just, I don't know, last week I was thinking about this. I was like, my life was completely different 2 years ago. Like, it was completely, like, everything was completely different. And I knew things were going to change going into law school, and I was scared about that. But then you just kind of forget. And then now 2 years later, I'm like, oh my gosh, literally everything I thought, like, everything is going to change. It did. Completely. And that's, like, so crazy to me. I don't know if that answers your question, but...
No, that does. And also, I mean, one thing that you had said about, like, the everlasting impact of kind of the decisions you're making now, that hit. Because someone had actually said to us when we started law school, they had mentioned to a friend, like, I'm going to need you actually to show up a little bit more than maybe I'm able to for this friendship to work, because, like, I'm just in a stage right now that, like, I'm so busy. And I remember hearing that and being like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to tell a friend that. And I think it's so vulnerable and difficult to tell someone that you love and have constantly, like, shown up for and found ways to, like, adapt to each other's love language as best as you can, that, like, right now I actually can't be the, like, good friend that I'm used to being. Like, you even said, like, you had difficulty with wrapping your head around, like, not being as good of a friend. And I think that's the hardest part, because it's like, people may remember that, but I think the right people in your life will understand that you're not, like, proud or excited that that's how you've had to act. You know, like, they know that you're not joyful that you can't always show up, or, like, maybe there are just times that you're too busy that you have to move a call or move, like, something, or maybe you can't actually physically be in person when you had always, like, intended to. But I do think that there are ways to, like, it's not even, like, because I feel like saying make up for it means, like, it's like you're in this, like, regret or, you know, like, guilt. But I do think there are ways to show up for people that you love, outside of maybe what you're both used to, you know? Like, I think that that's something that I've learned in this season, that because you were like, I've done it before and it's different now. I have never done it before, so I think I'm experiencing what your Boston feelings were like. Like, I don't know if you remember, but right when I got here, that was always my prayer request in every group setting. Please, I'm lonely. Like, I was like, I'm homesick and I'm lonely. Like, I said it to everyone. And I, like, am not ashamed to be like, I like, and I still think I love my family down, but like, there's something different from like, I'm homesick and lonely to like, I just really love my family, have a close relationship with my family. Like, I think
Yeah.
that was because I lean on them so much, and a lot of my friendships too, where I had felt like let down in ways, but also I realized, oh, I've been letting some of you guys down. That's why you're not showing up for me. So there was just like a lot to learn. And then you had also mentioned like catch up culture. And I think I do that with like every single friend. It's like, even me and my close friend Seth, like when we get on our calls, we'll often do the whole like, so what have I missed? But I think just genuinely talking about what's on your mind in that moment. And I think we often do that because like we see each other all the time. But when you haven't seen a friend in so long, it's so easy to just want to hear all of the updates. And then at the same time, it's weird because it's like I would find myself sometimes realizing I can't fit everything that has occurred to me or occurred in my life in this like what 2 hour call. Like there's some big things, girl. Like it's hard.
Literally.
So it was difficult, like navigating that too, because you're trying to say the most important things, but there's also little things you want to say. And so I think there's different approaches with every single person. Like it's like interesting because you find what works with different friends. Like I have certain friends that we send audios, and even though they're not as often, it's like sometimes I'm literally walking and saying what's on my mind at that moment, and then I'm also like, oh, these are some other important things that have happened, and it feels more like normal and natural. But there's also something weird about like, it takes a few weeks to get the audio back. And I'm like, wait, what did I say?
No, oh my gosh. You know? I have, like, you even saying that reminds me, like, I have a friend right now, and I love her. And if you're listening to this, I love you, girl. But it's like, we send audios, it's like, one audio, 1 month later, response to, like, all those things in that audio, and new things, and then and it's like, okay. Like at this point, it is what I told you in that audio 1 month ago. Like it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter to me anymore. And now you're responding to it, but it's just like the reality. It's just the reality of this season, and it's like catch up how you can. It depends. I think, especially for me, because my memory, like, I'll be talking to a friend and they're like, well, what's been going on? I'm like, I don't remember. All I know is what happened to me yesterday. If you want to talk about yesterday.
That I don't understand. I'm like, you have to have good memory. Like, there's no
it's like,
way.
You know it happened, but it's like, I just can't bring it to, like, something that, like, maybe was pressing me, like, a month ago. Like, I just won't remember it anymore because I've just moved past that. And then it's like, I don't want to rehash it. I moved past it. But then they feel like, oh, but now I just don't know what's going on in your life. So it's like, it's really hard.
Yeah. Something that I'm thinking about, though, that's beautiful about what you just said, is that in the moment, it's so pressing. And you were talking about how, like, it's been hard for you to deal with change. Like, you want to resist it. So there was a time when you were like, this change is huge. Like, everyone around me needs to know. And then a month later, you're like, oh, I'm okay. Like, it's all, you know, like, it worked itself out. So I think that's also beautiful. And, like, also, no matter how much you resist it, the change will come. The change will come, and you're going to get used to it and get comfortable with it. Like, it's so difficult, too, because I think I'm, like, going through this whole thinking about change even before it happens. Like, I know, I keep telling you, like, we're going to graduate law school, and you might live here, and I'm going to miss us all sitting and talking. Like, even when we're in the moment, like, I'm just thinking about the 3Ls who are, like, also having, like, a crisis right now, being like, I have to work. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm going to be even busier. Like, there's just so much to, like, preemptively be stressed and worried about. But it's like, when it comes, the same way we got through this change, God's going to take us through that change. And, like, I don't think it's worth it living, like, being fearful of the future rather than just living in the now. And I'm also saying this, but, like, I'm preaching this up now. So I'm trying to, like, embrace that way of living, because that's how you guys know I'm, like, constantly stressed, because I'm like, well, if I don't get everything done by the time I go to bed, then when I wake up tomorrow. But it's like, girl, just do the thing right now instead of, like, stressing about the thing. Like, sometimes you just gotta live in it. Like, you know?
No, that's so... I don't know how you got there either, but but it's so good, because I definitely have been that person. I literally, like, have like made notes about this to myself, just like how I need to stop rehearsing grief. Like, when you're like, oh, when this happens, I'm gonna be so sad. This is gonna make me sad, and then you're rehearsing like how you think you're gonna feel in the future, and then it's making you sad in the present, even though in the future you may not actually, like, it may not actually happen the way you think it will, because you're just not there and you don't know. And yeah, I definitely used to do that a lot, and I think
I think I've gotten better at it now, but I do agree with like like just living in the present, because now I think back to like some, like lately I've been maybe a little bit more, what's the word? Retro. What's the word when you're
Retrospective,
reflecting?
right?
Retrospective?
Introspective.
No, no.
Retro means you're looking
Like reflecting on the past, like
reflective. Maybe it's reflective.
maybe just reflective. And I'm like thinking back to like my season in Boston. I'm like, wow, like that was like such a nice season. Like it was so different, but it was like really nice. And I'm like, I'm never gonna be in that space again, in that place again. And so like living in the present now, because in the future you're gonna look back and just like be able to reminisce on it, but you can't relive it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to go back to something you were talking about with just like, yeah, like maybe, and I think I've definitely felt this. You just get to this point where you're like, oh, like this is a part of my, I don't even know, maybe identity. Like I'm just a good friend. Like that's something I strive to do. Like I strive to be. And then it's like, what happens when you like can no longer show up as that good friend anymore, and what impact that has on you, what impact that has on other people, especially like being in law school. And honestly, I will say I don't think 1L was as bad as I thought it was going to be. Friendship wise, like I don't think it had as bad as an impact. I thought what I was not expecting is 2L. I think 2L has been worse.
Yeah, you've been.
I think 2L has been worse, honestly.
Yeah.
And I wasn't prepared for that. I think 1L, I was like kind of bracing myself. I was like, things are gonna change. They're gonna be different. Blah blah.
You had visitors.
I did have a lot of good friends in town.
You had time.
But yeah, 2L I wasn't expecting, and I think that's what made it harder, because I wasn't expecting it to be so bad, and then everything just kind of like once I'm busy, once I'm stressed, like things that I enjoy or things that I like are good for me, like mental health wise, like checking in with people, like I just throw all that out the window. And it's just like focus on your work, like tunnel vision, and then when you're out of the tunnel you can like remember everything else going on in your life. So yeah, I'm just curious like what your experience with that has been.
Yeah, I think it's been the opposite of yours, where I had a busier 1L than my 2L.
Okay.
And so my last year was what it feels closer. I don't think you do a lot more than me, but I think that it feels closer to what your experience is like right now. And I also just think my adjustment from like my job was not like exhausting or like as even close to as busy. So I just wasn't used to being that busy again, and it was hard to like navigate my time at all. Like I was used to having a lot more free time. So even what you were saying about like having time to do the things you love, like I think because when I got here, I was like training for a race. I was still doing something I love. Like that was just important to me, and that was a way to like decompress. But I do think that I actually found myself being like, I got complacent with like the ways I wasn't showing up as a friend, and I think that was the hardest part. Like I have just come to this, like I'm a bad texter. Like I've just now come to terms with that. And I think that like I recently got called out by a friend, but I think having to like getting called out by someone rather than saying it myself, like, oh yeah, cause I like suck at texting, like, and just like people being like, yeah, you do. And like not saying more than that. It was actually necessary to hear like, this has hurt me. Like you can't just casually say like, I am bad at this and then not make or take actionable steps to be better at it. And I found that me getting overwhelmed during 1L meant in the like 30 minutes to an hour I actually have, because maybe it's 30 minutes to an hour here, 30 minutes to an hour before bed, I just like don't feel it in me to pour as much into others. Like it's so difficult to go on my phone now and read everything and then answer. Even though like I genuinely love you and want to show up for you, I'm just like exhausted. And what's even like more interesting is social media for some people is like, it can be harmful in friendships. I think where it's like, I've had friends be like, oh, so you like can like a post and you can't, because like a lot of the friends I've grown up with are very like girl, like they're gonna say like interesting because like, oh, you posted this on your story, so you went on a walk today, but you didn't have the time to answer my text. And it's like, I genuinely do care about it. Like I love you, I just don't like, it's so hard to in that like short period of time not do something that is for me and like my well-being, rather than like sit and answer, because I also have to think, like I have to think about what you're saying to answer. So it was just like a very difficult season. And I think that at least in this, like, early, like, at the beginning of this year, when someone had mentioned how I had failed to show up for them and the ways in which they were actually reassessing our friendship, I realized, like, all I can do is actually explain to you. Like, if I'm not telling you, this is why I'm bad at texting, for example, or this is why I would prefer, if you're open to this, right? Like, us getting on the phone, us sending audios, us being comfortable with, like, not however long of a gap, but, like, maybe, like, maybe it's okay if it's, like, we do not text every day. Like, me and my best friend, Ilhan, we, like, at least last year, made sure to call more so that we could then catch up. And there was like rarely a time limit on our calls, just because we knew it was so weird when it would be like a week later we're texting, and we used to spend every single day together. So it was like finding not like some form of a compromise where you're both happy, but you're still also not like, okay, this is like really affecting my week or affecting my day or affecting like my like I just don't have the capacity for this. And so I think I realized that all my friendships are different, like, and the things that people need. But two, that I needed to tell people why I was failing in certain ways.
Yeah. Good.
And like actually talk out with like genuinely the deep friendships I had, like talk out solutions. Because I think that the worst thing you can do is get comfortable with not showing up at times and not explain to that person, so that all they're seeing is you letting them down and disappointment.
Yeah.
And then eventually they're like, I'm not willing to pour into this friendship myself either. And you have never voiced like what was going on and why. And like people will never understand law school until I don't think you'll understand law school unless you're in law school. The same way, like my friend's brother's in med school, and I saw him today and he was like, it's hard to even get on like the phone with my own brother, because like med school is also like people won't understand the busyness of people won't understand a crazy career until they have a crazy career. So it's like you can only say like, oh, I totally get it so many times, but truthfully you don't get it. And I think additionally, because you don't get it, you're like, there's no way you don't have any time. Like at some point it starts to hurt, and I think that the only way you can make as like it even close to clear is just being transparent. Like, even though you're not in these shoes, like, I promise you that I want to show up. These are just the ways that I think we can be there for each other moving forward. And then also saying same way, like the same exact way that I am telling you the things I need, tell me what you need back.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to just say what you need and then be like, thanks, and leave it at that. When like the other person's like, I have some things I want to say too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think that is so good. Yeah, I think what you're saying about like it does come down to communication. And I think what you said, oh my gosh, is so true. Like how people just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what it's like. Even though I do have, that issue where I just want people to read my mind. Like, like, why don't you know? Like, why can't you tell that I'm struggling? Like, why can't
I was like, hello? Really?
Why can't you tell? Yes, read it quickly. No. So I think that part, that part where you have to just like be honest and like hope that they will give you grace, and also like you on the other hand giving them grace as well. Because it doesn't feel good to feel like you're letting someone down and like get called out, but it needs to happen obviously to preserve a friendship if you want to preserve it. And I think something that I started doing is, and I do this like periodically. I think I've told you about it, is like a friendship check-in, and then more so with like my long distance friends, because it's easy for things like you were saying to go unsaid, to just like sweep things under the rug. And I'm always surprised by what I learned during those, and it's like a moment to be like, hey, how can I be showing up better for you as a friend right now? And then usually, a good friend will ask you back, like, how can I be showing up better for you? And like it's a time for people to say like, yes, they're like needs and expectations, but also like maybe ways that they wish that you, or ways that they feel like you haven't been showing up as well for them. And you can also address just how like things have been, like how stressed you've been. And like, yeah, because I just realized like if I can't show up for myself, there's no way I can show up for other people.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just period.
Yeah.
And I think it's also kind of hard to realize that like a season of life can change. Like just as, you know, being in law school changes you as a person, it also changes the kind of friend you can be. And knowing that future, like Tracey and Big Law is going to change you as a person, and it's also going to change the kind of friend you can be. It's just the reality of like life, and just being transparent about that. And obviously if it's important to you, like you're going to do what you can to maintain it. Yeah. And I think it's also helped me, and this is something I had to learn even before this, was just like people will let you down. Like I will let people down, and people people will let you down, and that is just being human. That is just life. And taking your friends off this pedestal, and also giving your friends the opportunity to take you off the pedestal if you want to be like this good friend, perfect friend. It's like, no, you can't. Not to say that you shouldn't try your best, but I think God has really like been showing me like it's important to put people in their rightful place. Like they are people. They are human. Like the only person you can really trust with your everything is God, and trust to not let you down. But a person, they will just let you down because that is what humanity does. And I think that has helped me. Even though I don't know if that's like morbid advice. It's just reality, no, and I think it helps.
Yeah. And like I think what's difficult about it is there's like a level of proximity that you have with, or just like closeness that you have with a person where you're like, but you won't let me down, like because you know everything about me, and like you're my bestest, like, you know, like there's only so many people that you could call that, like you have very just like core friendships that you're like, but you wouldn't let me down. And I think the truth is like you have let people down at times too, you know, when you think like, oh no, I've done pretty well, like the same exact way. So but one thing I was gonna ask you is like, how do you feel like you address the like struggle of being let down by a friend when they might not even know they let you down? And do you think that you always bring it up? Like, do you think that you often say something when you felt let down? Or do you like usually wait for maybe like a friendship check-in or a time where it just feels like, okay, now this is the space to talk about this, and this isn't harming me, so like I'll just wait till maybe it's a better setting to bring it up? Because I often struggle with that. Like it's hard for me to just like move forward if I like have something I just want to say. So
yeah, I think it depends. It depends on the friendship. Like especially if it's someone that you see a lot. I feel like if someone you have a lot of proximity with, you just do have to bring it up. Yeah, because it's gonna be bothering you. And it's just like sometimes it's a text at first to like open up the conversation if it's just like, hey, this is something that is bothering me, or if it just comes up in the course of conversation. Sometimes I do wait for a check-in. Not often though, because I don't do those that much. Yeah, like maybe twice a year. Yeah, like so fair. But I do think I now choose my battles. I do pick my battles, so it's not everything. Like some things it's just like I pray about it and then I let it go. Yeah. Yeah, so I do think there's discernment in that, and like God, like, is this something that it's like a me thing? Because sometimes it's a me thing. Like it's not actually them. Like it's just like my heart. Like where's my heart at with this instance? And also, I think it's important to realize, like, just like I am asking for grace in this season, I have friends that just need grace because of the season they're in. Like maybe they're dealing with a lot. Maybe you know, like everyone is dealing with their own things. So I think sometimes it's also recognizing that, hey, this is actually just like a product of the season that they're in, and I just need to pray to God to help me to give them more grace, just like I want to receive grace and to release it. And I honestly, if I'm being honest, I will say more times it's things that more times if there's like an issue, it's because it's something I just need to let go. Like it's not necessarily, but that's maybe just also a product of the friends that I have and the friendships that I keep. But yeah, more times than not, it's like a heart issue with me that I just need to release. Yeah. Then like, oh, you have wronged me because you hate, or you know, you don't care about me or something like that. Yeah. And if they did something wrong and then you bring it up, it's like, hey, I'm like, then they say I'm sorry.
That's strong of you, I think, to like know and like your first, I don't know, I think what I struggle with is letting go, maybe. Like I think that I struggle with being comfortable with like letting go of something. Because for me, at least it feels like this thing has hurt me. So until I say it, I won't be at peace, right? Where, like you said, sometimes people disappoint you, and like who's to say the response or reaction you get will also be disappointing. And so that's something that I feel like I need to do, like moving forward, is genuinely just pray about like what should I be doing here, like versus just my first reaction is this is the emotion I'm feeling. I'm gonna now go talk to you about the emotion I'm feeling, because I wonder where I'd be like if I did I think genuinely the hardest part of like growing up is like there are things that you might have that you're holding that might affect the way you behave as a friend. And I think me and some friends had realized like, wow, we are not treating each other the way that we want to be treated, like that whole, because we're holding a lot of hurt ourselves, and it can be implicitly or it can be like we actually know that we're behaving this way because something hurt us.
Like against that particular friend, or just you're holding hurt in general?
What do you mean?
Like you're saying you're holding hurt and it's impacting how you're acting towards them. Is it like holding hurt that they inflicted on you, or is it just like hurt from others?
Yes. Sorry, yeah, holding hurt that they inflicted upon.
Okay, yeah.
Me, and that I inflicted on them, and that they like. It's like, and I think additionally, what makes it even harder is like when you're in a period of like hurt, some of your family, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but like some of your like the people that you go to, especially like just adult, like people who are older, in times of like pain or disappointment or stress, and like just naturally my mom can always give me amazing advice. So I think it's always interesting because sometimes they can even hold the hurt on your behalf. And so there have been times that like my mom herself is like hurt for me that something's happened. And so it's like she's not giving her opinion on what should happen next, but like I acknowledge that maybe there are things that like even though she's the person I like to turn to for most things, I don't need to tell, just because like now she might have her own opinion or view on something that's happened to me, you know?
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I will say, like, and that's why I do think like praying about it first has really helped me, because I feel like a lot of times after that I get an opportunity to bring it up, like God will just like give me an opportunity to make it easy for me to bring it up. Or sometimes he'll show me like through our next conversation like why that happened, like they open up to me about something they were really struggling with, and I didn't realize it because I'm just in my head about how I'm feeling. And if you don't realize like how like something so ill-timed, like bringing up an ill-timed offense can like also hurt your friendship in the long run. But I do think offense is like the reality of friendship, and like learning how to navigate it, because if not, like I would not have a lot of friends. Like if I was always like I could always get mad about literally anything. Like there are so many things to get mad about, but then also having the grace like have those conversations about hurt, being able to navigate those well, like you said, like when you have to communicate expectations after someone hurt you, like I do think that's important too, because you don't want someone to keep doing something. And I think it is especially hard if there's someone that you're close to. I feel like the closer I am to you, the harder it is for me to have that conversation, because again, like read my mind. Also, like why would you think this is okay?
You're
like do I have to tell you in Spanish? Like
you're crazy.
Just understand. I think that is where it is.
Girl, no one will be you. Like, you being your own person, right? Like, I will literally never know, like, everything about the way you operate. That's what geek, like, I'm like, you're actually hilarious for that. There's genuinely so many things you probably think about in a day that I would never cross my mind. So how am I supposed to know exactly how you want everything to go?
That's not my
like,
issue to figure out.
It's their problem.
That is not my issue to figure out. So I think like being able to communicate that. Okay, but even like I'll give like a lighthearted example. I feel like we realized that we had some issues.
Recent difficult, our first ever conflict, kind of.
Okay, not that.
My bad. Yeah. Let's get into the
Okay, I wouldn't call that conflict, but anyways.
It wasn't a conflict. No, you're right. It was just a conversation. It was literally just
but we had to communicate our expectations right after winter break. I feel like we realized, hey, we're actually like not staying in touch like we would like to when we're not in the same place. Or you're just like, hey, I don't see you as much as I would like to.
And phone calls. Like I was like, why?
And phone calls.
Yeah.
And now you text me back more frequently. So yes. I think somehow, like, you know, we realize like, hey, this is something that we both are feeling and we're just like not aligning on. And we kind of said we're gonna make more of an effort. And I don't know. I feel like we have. I feel like I've seen you a lot more this semester and like.
And it was informal. Like I think the way we brought up the conversation, like it wasn't like we need to talk. You know, like it was very much like we kind of casually were like, wait, we actually talk more. Like when we were literally separate, we talked about like how has this entire break been, and we're like, why is it that we're doing that? Because we haven't talked all break, and we kind of just realized like, okay. And I also think something about like the new year makes people like, wait, this is what we can do better. This is what we can. But I also think I appreciated that like we were honest in that we saw each other a lot during our 1L. And that was simply because of like we're just doing a lot of things together. Yeah. So when we didn't have a lot of spaces that we would be in that like overlapped, we saw like a lack of consistency, and we're like, okay, we can do better. And I think it's even more interesting when it's in a friendship that like you are in proximity to each other. Like you actually aren't a long distance friendship where it's like we genuinely like see each other 2 times a year.
Yeah. So that's just like a small example of, you know, I don't know.
I know what you mean, though. I literally know what you mean. That's like a small example of how to bring up and knowing when to bring it up. Yeah. Like, I honestly don't think it was like extremely heavy on my heart, if that makes sense. But there were moments that I was like, wow, I don't see, you know what I mean? Like, or if I even run into you on campus and I'm like, wow, like the fact that I'm running into you, like we didn't intentionally make the time to see each other in the past few days. Like I haven't seen you in like a week. So it's like in that moment, you're like, oh, that's so sad. And so I think that like, I'm happy that it came up too, because there was a lot that like, wait, we haven't been making the time to see each other, that we realized. And I really was saying to you, like, I think 2L is when you realize like the intentionality behind your friendships, which it's like law school's annoying to talk about, but I do think that like, when you have more on your plate, you have less settings that are like designed for you to just be with people. You actually have to make the time to be with your friends, like so much more. We're not all in a section. Like it's just not the same as what it used to be, and people are also just doing things that they might be more passionate about, that you might not be as passionate about that thing and be in your own space leading something, and you just have to like find a way to show up for each other too. One thing I really appreciated, that's actually a really small like random thing, but I think that because a lot of the people I'm really close to, at least in law school, are like leading some org or doing something that they're really passionate about, I found that some of my closest friends here, we show up for each other by like sometimes just attending the thing that they were so excited to put on. And that's been like, you would think really small, but that's been so beautiful to me. Like seeing my friends, for example, I didn't even put this on, but like come to like EWOC conference because they knew like Tracey loves EWOC. Like that's a big part of, like that's the thing she's doing this year. And I know that they were tired. Like I literally know from the day before that they were exhausted. Aww. But they were like, of course we were going to come. And they even said the same thing for like we had a welcome picnic. And that just meant so much to me. I was like, I literally said, I didn't tell you guys to come. They're like, well, yeah, you didn't have to ask us to come. And that just meant a lot to me. And I think I see that like in friendships here. That's like, I realize, oh, I didn't even know this was like something I love. Like I didn't even know this was another, like we're going to make up that love language. Like I didn't know that was a love language to me, but it really is. So that's also beautiful. Like seeing that your love language can change as you get older, but also that sometimes people can surprise you in the ways they show up for you. And like it can help you learn a little bit more about yourself too, and what you need in friendships that you might have never known. So that's been like a really beautiful learning lesson of this year, or of this year and last year, honestly.
Yeah, and I think it's cool because you're just gonna see that in different ways as time goes on, right? Because obviously school's gonna end again, and you're gonna be back in the like potential, oh my gosh, more long distance friendships. And so
that one's rough.
But it's like we get to practice that right now. Like we get to practice the intentionality that is necessary to maintain. And if it's important to you, like you will find a way to maintain it. And so like on this maturity point, because this is something I've been thinking about as well, I think I have noticed in myself, which I think is just a part of getting older too, like maybe I'm not as agreeable as I used to be. And I used to kind of like, that was like one of my things, like, oh, I'm just like very agreeable, like I can get along with anyone, I can basically live with anyone. And I think I've noticed that I am like a little, like I'm not I was gonna say who I'm not, but I'm not gonna say that.
You're hilarious.
Anyways, yeah, like I'm not like the most direct person. I'm not, but I am definitely more direct, more honest than I was before. I think I've been thinking about this, like if now that I'm like more honest, now that I'm less agreeable, like are you still gonna be around? Like is this friendship still gonna exist in the same way? Because you realize that like people are comfortable with who they know you to be, right? But then if you change and it's like less comfortable for them, are they still gonna be are you still gonna have the same friendship? That's just something I've been thinking about. I don't know if you've experienced that in your life.
Wow. I don't know if I have. I think only because that's good. I really think I need to think actually. Like I really need to think about this because I don't know if I've reflected enough on the ways in which I've reflected on the ways in which what I need in friendships has changed, if that makes sense. But I don't know if I've reflected enough on how my change in like personality, like just growth, may have impacted my friendships, like my friendships that I grew up in, like at least the longer friendships I've had, because I've never really like sat and asked like, have I changed in this way or that way or this way or that way? But I will say, a part of me thinks that, like, I think about this a lot because my mom talks about this and like her and my dad, like she just will emphasize often how the person that you marry like is not the same person in 20, 30 years. And I find that so beautiful because she's like, growth is not just during the like years of your life that everyone thinks like, oh, 20 to 30, you're going to grow so much. Like there's going to be changes. You're going to live here. You're going to live there. You're going to have a job. You're going to like, she's like, you continue to grow even when sometimes you're like fostering the growth of your children too, right? Like she has been like a big part of who she presents herself as is a mother. And she's like, but I'm still growing myself. I'm changing myself, like personality wise, like the things that she finds frustrating. Like there are things that now she gets more frustrated by that she was like once upon a time did not bother me at all. And I think that like to me that's just so clear in every human being. Like I think that anyone is going to change like every single year, every month. Like there are things that you're learning about yourself as you get older that you would like, even as you asked me, like as a kid that I might have not thought about or just been comfortable doing. And now I'm like, I wish I knew that back then. So I think that it's just the level of commitment you have to like understanding that a person will change, but like at the core of your friendship is so much love there that it doesn't, like I think unless it's like you change so much that now I don't even really know, you know what I mean, like who you are. I think it's still a beautiful thing seeing your friend grow in becoming more assertive and like direct. And if anything, I think it just represents like the confidence that you have, because there may have been a time that like you weren't comfortable saying things that either were like disappointing you or in the moment you were frustrated by, but now you're in a place that like you're confident enough to say like, hey, I need this, or hey, this should get done. You know, like you're just growing into who you are more, and that's like adulthood. But it's weird because for me, I know there are probably changes like in who I am today and like who I was like in college, but I don't know if I've reflected on the ways in which my friends have seen that. Like I think I've reflected on like, oh yeah, I used to be like, I actually think I used to be more confident with like public speaking, and then I came to law school and was like all scared about certain things or like just things like that.
Yeah.
But I wonder what it's been like for my friends who maybe right now we are a long distance friendship and we see each other a few times a year, and I'm like, what's it like when you see like it? Was there like, do you think I've changed a little bit in law school, like, or do you think New York has changed? Like I've changed in any way because of New York City? Like I think that's something I actually want to now ask like friends, because I don't know if I reflected on that. Do you feel like it demonstrates itself in your friendships themselves? Like, for example, you being more direct, you are now like that when you're just having conversations with friends, or like,
yeah. So that's literally what I was gonna say. I feel like you kind of, well, one, I think what you're saying is true. The best person to tell you is like other people, because they probably have noticed a difference.
Yeah.
In other random things. So I do think they're best suited, because you don't, us experiencing the change like within yourself, you just don't notice it until like maybe long periods of time, and then you're like, oh, I've changed. But I think I've noticed it because I experience more friction in my friendships that I didn't before, and it's like what changed? I was like, what changed? Oh, it was me. So like, yeah, maybe something that you just like would not have like, and it's not even like necessarily bad friction, but it's just like, oh, I actually don't agree with you on what you're saying, and I'm gonna say that I don't agree with you, and like we can go back and forth on like why I don't agree with you. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to agree with me, but I'm just like gonna say what I think. Yeah. And maybe beforehand I would have just like, I don't know, just like not really cared to say anything, or like not really had an opinion on it. Which I think is interesting.
I'm surprised too that you in the past didn't have an opinion on it, because for me what I usually assume is like, okay, you're feeling this but didn't want to bring it up, and then you either forget or like, it's frustrating.
Maybe it was more so like I just didn't think the opinion was worth like getting into like an argument, you could say, over.
Shout out law school. I feel like that's why you're like now. I just do think that might be a part of like this, you know, like comfort in saying like what you think.
And I think it's also something I've been thinking about, because it's like, when do you get to the point? Okay, because I was reading this thing, and it's like kind of something that's been talked about. Like every 7 years, your friendships change. Is the like benchmark, maybe? Like not necessarily all your friendships, but like a lot of them. You'll look back 7 years. Like, okay, take a moment, think 7 years back. I need to see how old I was.
Wow.
And no, literally, I'm like thinking like I was in college. What year was I in college?
Yeah, a lot changed.
But yeah,
and
think about the friends
formed. A lot. Yeah. Like the people.
Think about the friends you had 7 years ago, and think about who is still who of those
literally,
friends you're still friends with.
That's
and so
crazy.
I've also been thinking about this in the sense of like, when do you realize like you're outgrowing a friendship? And I think maybe it happens less so as you. I don't know. I'm just okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just talking. Like maybe like after college, like once you get through like the college friends, like undergrad friends that you like may or may not be close to. After that, I think it kind of like settles, because you're more intentional in choosing your friends. That's why I would think maybe you outgrow friends less so. But I think it's something I've been thinking about, because it's like, okay, how do you distinguish between, oh, maybe me and this friend are just in a different season, versus like me and this friend now have just different values, or like now we're different people. Like, and I guess it's up to you, like what you're comfortable with. Like, are you comfortable still being friends with someone that has different values than you? Are you comfortable being friends with someone who's in a different season? It's a lot more common anyways, so I think you just have to get comfortable with that. But I think I'm also noticing that in like friendships that are having more friction, it's like, okay, is it just because now we're just like misaligned, and that means that this friendship is not really gonna go anywhere? And that's like kind of crazy to think about. But yeah,
I think about that a lot, and in the past like year, I've really thought about that with some like very close friends. I think naturally because we actually met in a season of time where I think that we were more aligned. So I think that it's actually interesting because you had mentioned like as you get older you have more autonomy. I think that like it actually can be at any time in your life simply because who, like, to me at least, one, you're constantly changing, but two, like, your faith can look so different, can have looked so different in like college than it looks today at like 24, 25 than it looks at 30. Like, I just think that I've seen that my faith has grown, but also genuinely the way I walk throughout the world is so much different that even when I'm around like or in spaces that might be a little interesting, it's still clear who I am, right? Or like it's also clear to other people around me that may not know God that I will still talk about God. You know, like I will still, even if it's a small, like I'm going to send you a song or like I'm going to tell you about church or like even friends I have who don't personally go to church are still asking me about like, oh, what's your church like here? Like, how did you find, like, just because they literally know that about me, where I think there was a time frame in my life where I felt like there were things I just kept to myself, even though I was still doing them, or like, I was less bold and like vocal about it. And I think I found that like it's easier to tell when you're outgrowing a friendship when who you are and like who you're becoming is now clashing with who that person is becoming. Like the same exact way you're becoming stronger in your faith, you are on fire for God. Like you're telling people that you might not even know like who the Lord is and what he's done in your life. People that you were once really close to might be doing the exact opposite. Like they just genuinely are going out often. They have song like and music taste that is like genuinely like saying things that you just disagree with. And so it's really difficult to have things in common. Like, and another thing I noticed recently that was really difficult was like around certain people that once upon a time, like I might have been more similar to them. Now I'm finding that it's harder. Like, I feel like, if anything, it's like some form of a bad influence because it's like harder to just like represent, like be proud of how I am in those spaces.
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier, right? To just like conform to what them and all those other people think or like the way they behave. And so I sometimes think it's like you can know the friendship might be moving towards like just a different place. Like either you're not as close or you're just like, you might have outgrown this friendship and the other person might not. And I think that's something that's really difficult to balance because it's easier when you both understand like, wow, we're different. And then it's harder when the person sees the differences and changes in you and says like, I'm proud of you. Like, wow, I wish I could, what? But they are still in that place, you know? And you also don't want to just like abandon this person, but like truthfully, you're just like, I don't know if this friendship is even like edifying for me. Like, I don't know if I'm growing as a person in this friendship. I don't know if it's like, it's not like a transaction, but it's just like, is this even a beneficial, like, am I walking away from every time we talk or from sharing things that are really important to me, feeling like I'm heard and like seen? Or is it more like I'm conforming to the things that are important to you, which I just don't believe in, right? Like, it's interesting. It's really interesting. And I think that like, as I've been in more long distance friendships, basically, I found that it's so much easier to like ignore that. Like it's easier to think, oh, I see you a few times a year. Like this isn't someone who I'm seeing every single day. So it's just so much easier to be like, well, even though I'm outgrowing this friendship, like it'll just at some point like fall apart. You know, like, it'll just happen naturally. When, like, one thing I don't understand is, like, how you even go about having, like, such a tough conversation of, like, where do we go from here? Because I truly believe that we are misaligned. You know, like, how do you even say to that person, like, I think that maybe we are different people than we were when we met, and that's okay, but I don't know if this friendship is a friendship that I can be in anymore. It's a little, like, that was very, like, I know. I know. Like,
you were deep in it. You were thinking about that.
It's because yeah, it's something I've been thinking about lately, like,
yeah.
Because it's a very close friend of mine. And it's just hard because I think even the people around, like, other people that are close to me can see, like, you guys are just, like, you're both very different people now, you know? And it's just, yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard, but I also think that if anything, it's, like, a sign of growth and, like, maturity that you know when to walk away from a friendship that might not be serving you or, like, actually doing you a disservice, and still, like, care about that person. It doesn't mean that you don't care about them anymore. It just means that, like, you can acknowledge that it wasn't, like, a good friendship to be in anymore, or at least that level of closeness, like, you might just not be able to have, you know?
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is, like, one, it's, like, so real, like, that tension, because it's, like, this person that you still do love and care about, but your lives just look completely different. And I don't think it always has to be, like, a situation where it's like, oh, we're just not friends anymore. I think naturally, like, distance will just happen because maybe you're not as willing to go to them with certain things that you're dealing with, because maybe you just don't think, like, or you know that the way they view things, the advice they're going to give you is not really aligned. So maybe it is just, like, first, like, there's distance, but yeah, I've never had to have, like, that kind of conversation, honestly, where it's just like, hey, I don't know, like, what kind of friendship we're gonna have anymore. Yeah. I think for me, those kind of friendships just kind of, like, the distance just happened on its own. Yeah. And now it's like, obviously, if I'm in town and, like, I'm around, I would love to see you, but yeah, I think it's more of its, or what am I trying to say?
Runs its natural course.
Yeah, sometimes, but if it isn't, it's more difficult, I think, like you're saying, when they don't recognize the change, and, like, they still think everything is fine and normal, and maybe they're, like, reaching out a lot, and, like, you know, they want to see you. I think then it may get to a point where you do have to have a conversation, and it obviously does require a lot of prayer and grace to, not to say, like, oh, I think I'm better than you, or, like, I think, like, nothing like that. It's just, like, the direction that I'm going and things are important to me. I feel like I can't hold those things and also hold this friendship in the same way.
It's very hard.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, especially considering, I think, like, one, it's hard when you've had so many, like, there's just so many years of you being friends. Like, I think when you've been friends with someone longer, it's hard to do something like that. But it's also hard when you're, like, struggling with also just, like, explaining yourself, right? Like, I think when someone, like, just, it's just so difficult because it's like, why don't you do this, or why wouldn't you do, like, it's like not even peer pressure, but it's just like someone's questioning who you are becoming, and, like, genuinely wants to know, but it's just sometimes like, why do I have to explain myself? Like, I would prefer for you to just get it and also, like, be where I'm at. And so it's like, this is literally no fault of yours. It's just like, wow, there was a time where there was nothing to explain, you know, like, it was just like I was in a different place. And I don't know, it's rough. It is really rough, but I also think it's, like, healthy to be, like you were talking about earlier about like being reflective. I think it's healthy to like actually think about these things rather than like just ignore it and try to move forward and move past it, because you are again like leaving things unsaid. And there could be, I really think it's scary when you do that, because there's like a moment of like you burst and there's just so much that you say and the person had no idea. Rather than at least try to have some sort of like healthy conversation, or like healthy, like maybe there just has to be a shift in like how we are as friends, or even this friendship in general, like if that's what has to happen, but you at least are vocalizing like how you're feeling, you know?
Yeah. And I think like one, yes, it probably will do more damage in the long run if you don't say something eventually. Because like there is a world where it's like, yeah, it's just like it's natural distance, but sometimes it is a friendship where you do need to say something. But then two, I think it goes to like establishing boundaries, which is also something I wanted to talk about. Because one, I feel like you are pretty good about this, like establishing boundaries in friendships.
Yeah.
And also because I feel like on the flip side of like your scenario, I feel like my like tension with like friendships and like, and maybe this is not necessarily like you're outgrowing the entire friendship, but I feel like with some friends that I have, it's like you are also a believer. Like we have this like same ground, like base level commonality, but some of the decisions you're making and some of the things that you're doing or the ways that you're acting is just like not aligned. And I just like can't entertain it anymore. Like maybe where in the past I could have talked about certain things, and like I could have like thought things were funny, but like now I'm like, it's actually not funny to me. Like, and I think like in the sense of like friendship boundaries, I'm like, is it a hot take to say like there's certain things I just don't want to talk about with people anymore? Like I think I have given you my rant. I think I've given you my rant of just about like, it gets to a certain point where like I'm like really I'm trying to tread carefully, but I'm also like trying to be honest, because that's the point of this podcast, to be honest. It's just like, if your relationship is toxic, I don't want to hear about it.
And that's fair.
Like after it started toxic, and we talked about it, and I was like, this is toxic, and you're still you're still in this toxic relationship, but every time it's like, now you want to talk about it, I'm like, actually I don't want to talk about this anymore, because you know you shouldn't be in it, I know you shouldn't be in it, so what are we talking about? But then it's hard because it's like, oh, this is a friendship, I want to be there to support you, I want to know what's going on in your life. So yeah, I don't know, I just feel like there's like a tension there, and it connects to another thing that I'm learning, or I'm growing in, is just like escaping the savior mentality, where it's like, I cannot save you. I'm not God, right? I can't save you from certain things, and like all I can do is like pray for you and try to support you. But then maybe that's why I'm also like maybe more comfortable saying I don't want to talk about these things with you anymore, because before it was like, oh, I need to know everything so that I can like spend like all night talking about this, and like spend all night like supporting you through this, and it doesn't do anything, right?
It literally
so like
does not. I think one big thing is like a person genuinely, I've experienced this from the opposite end. I think that like a person needs to, like, sometimes it's unfortunate because you have given your perspective of like, I believe this thing isn't good for you, but I think also it's a bigger it's a big representation of love, I think, to understand that you are not that person. And so simply by telling them how you think and how you feel about what they are putting themselves through, like out of the love you have for them, is enough, because a person can only learn for themselves. Like, I feel like my favorite lesson that one of my close friends has taught me is like, even if I don't get to tell you about this thing because you're like, I'm done hearing it, like, she will literally be like, I'm not hearing it anymore. Like, just tell me when it gets to this stage. And she literally said that to me, just tell me when it gets to this stage, because she knew it was not getting to that stage with this person. Like, she was like, she just knew that at some point I would learn my lesson, basically, but also that she had made it clear to me she thought it was in my best interest to walk away from something that wasn't good for me, and I refused to listen. And so I think by refusing to also listen, but offering advice at one time, it's like you kind of just have to let the person learn for themselves, like, okay, this wasn't helpful for me, this wasn't, like, I mean, sometimes people even say, like, sometimes you didn't even grow from the situation, like, it could have just been bad and that was that. But I also think, like, the person has to, like, learn, I am not to be in this situation because I love myself more. You know, like, I think that you can love your friend so much that you're like, this is how you're supposed to be treated.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, like, I will give you all the advice in the world that sometimes we don't even take for ourselves. But at the same time, like, they might not feel that way. Like, they might not be there yet. Like, that person might not even be where you're at in your own self-love journey, right? And so it's hard because it's like, I want you to know how much, like, I value, like, I want you to know how much you're worth, how much God sees, like, what the Lord wants for you, truly. Like, the Lord doesn't want this. So, like, you can think all of that and say that, but at some point it's also like, you cannot, I don't think you should ever overextend yourself to the point that you are now taking on the burden or the frustration of what that person's going through in something that you've already said to them how you truly think that they should be going about it. Because again, a person will never be you. Like, you are different than that person, and how you would go about it would be different. So, like, you can only be, I think, a listening ear to a certain extent. But I also think that it's difficult when another person is hurt by that. Like, is hurt that you aren't willing to listen to, right, some of the unhealthy habits or, like, whatever they're putting themselves through. Because it seems like now I'm saying, I don't love you enough to listen to, you know, like, okay, because I love you, I'll listen to everything. But I also think it's only, I don't know, it's only like, I think it's hard because it does, like, to be completely honest, I think that sometimes setting boundaries in friendships does change the dynamic of the friendship. Like, I think that especially when it comes to, like, especially in this stage of life, I think as women, like, it's just so natural to talk about, like, forming relationships, like romantic relationships, or even just, like, what you look for in a partner and, like, talk about that with friends. So I think that for a lot of people, but I just see it especially in female friendships, not having the ability to do that can completely change, like, the friendship. I think because it's so big, it's like, it feels like like an arm, right, is, like, cut off a little bit, because it's like, this is common. Like, I don't know of many female friendships where they just don't bring up once, like, anything about romantic.
But I said if it's toxic.
True, that's true. That is different than, like, just in general. But I also think that, like, if it's a pattern in a person that you love, it's harder, because it's like, if that's something that keeps happening, it means I know where this is headed again, right? But you literally can't physically pick someone up, shake them, and make them suddenly, like, not engage in or entertain a toxic relationship, right? So it's harder, because it's like, how can I still, like, show you love, but also know that there's a, like, something that you're doing and, like, entertaining that, like, it pains me.
I'm looking at I had to pull up my notes because I was reading the Boundaries book last year. I never finished it. But anyways, it's just about, like, boundaries in life, like, boundaries in your relationships. And it's true, like, the Bible does say, like, carry each other's burdens. But the book talks about, like, it distinguishes between, like, burdens versus loads. And, like, we are responsible to others, is what the author says, but for ourselves. And so, like, you can feel comfortable having a boundary because it's, like, not saying I'm putting up a wall, like, it's a fence with a gate, but, like, you also have to take responsibility for your choices. You're in control of your choices. I'm in control of my choices as well. And so distinguishing between, like, what is like a burden that, like, you're experiencing, like, some deep grief, right? You can't carry that by yourself. That's what your friends are there for. versus a load that you are like taking on and placing on other people as well. And I think like just being able to distinguish that. So, because I'm not saying like, oh, if there's anything hard my friend's going through, I'm gonna be like, I'm sorry, I don't have the capacity, like, don't talk to me about it. But it's like distinguishing like, okay, this is a choice that you're making. You're choosing to do this, and I'm saying that I don't agree with that choice, and I also am choosing to not be involved in the same capacity when it comes to that anymore.
And I think also there are like smaller, like there's even loads that are still what the person is choosing, but aren't like they're hard to say like, oh, this is a load that you're like not giving me, but like this is a load that I feel like you're placing on me, right? Like I'm thinking of like in this, at least in this recent like year, I think that life has been busier for a lot of people around me, where it's so easy for them to then like explain to me all of the things that they're dealing with, and you kind of feel like you take it on, like you're like, wow, that's like you're not experiencing it like them, you're like, that's so heavy. And I think that there's like an interesting, it's a difficult like line to draw of like how much, not so much how much is too much, but like how can a person still pour out like what they're dealing with to you without kind of also giving you the load that they're dealing with, you know? Like, how can they tell you, oh, I'm dealing with, like, I have this tomorrow, I have this, and you not take that on yourself, but just genuinely be able to listen to them. And so I think that it's like, a big part of friendship is, even if it's considered a load, like, being able to still ask your friends what they're carrying whilst knowing that you can tell them what you're carrying. You know, like it's like a mutual, like, I'm dealing with this, what are you dealing with? Because even though I'm dealing with this and it feels so large to me, and it is probably very large, I know there's things you might want to vocalize to me that you're going through and you like aren't able to. I guess a part of me is saying like it feels like it's okay to carry some loads as long as you're also being met with like, what are your loads? Have you ever felt that way? Like,
yeah, so I mean, I think,
or maybe I'm seeing the loads versus burdens wrong.
Yeah,
know?
I think you don't. I mean, I don't think it's like a technical definition, like, oh, burden versus load. I think obviously, like, that's the point of friendship, right? Is to be there for each other. I think I'm talking specifically in the instance where you feel like it's something that you need to set a boundary around. So I'm not saying like, oh, like, you don't carry other people's burdens, you don't help your friends out when they're going through something. But I think there are certain things where like it becomes an issue where you have to set a boundary, and it's different for everyone. So like the thing that I feel like the issue that I feel like I need to set a boundary around, maybe for some people it doesn't really like affect them to the point where that needs to happen, where it becomes like something that's unhealthy. But on your other point about it being like a shared mutual thing, I will say that I think it depends on the season, because I definitely have experienced friendships where it's like they don't have the capacity to pour into other people. They don't have the capacity to carry my burdens. Like, me being in this friendship right now is me just carrying your burdens and you talking to me about what you're going through, kind of like what you were saying, like you just don't get the opportunity to share what you're dealing with. And I actually had a conversation with one of my close friends about this later on, and she was like, it was kind of like, yeah, you really didn't show up for me when I was going through this breakup because you had all this stuff on your plate. And I understand that, and so I'm not faulting you for it, but I'm just telling you, like, you didn't really show up for me the way I would appreciate it. And they apologized for that, and they recognized that, yeah, like, they weren't like the person that they wanted to be at that point, like in that season, because of what they were going through. And it's hard, right? But it's also like the reality of, I don't know, I feel like every relationship, like we're like planets, right? Like we're all in a solar system. And so like when it's like this planet or this person in your life like can't really pour into you, you luckily have other people that can pour into you. And that maybe I have a friend that I'm more so pouring on them and they are, or I'm more so, what am I saying? They're more so pouring into me, and yeah, and I'm pouring more into other people, and I think like that is why also I think you just, you can't, nobody can be your world, and you can't expect that from people. But for most friendships, I do think it is mutual. Like, I'm telling you what I'm going through, you're telling me what you're going through, and it's fine. I do think also though, I have a friend that I noticed that she does not like when I complain, and she don't want to listen anymore. She doesn't want to listen anymore, and I've gathered that, and I'm like, okay, like it's fine, like I'm not, like it's okay. Because like, you know, like you said, Lawson is like complaining. We like talking about all the things we have on our plate, but for some people, maybe that really like it makes them feel like, oh, now I have a ton of things on my plate and it's stressing me out because you're just you're complaining, and they don't like that, and so if you don't like, and she'll just like steer the conversation away, and I'm like, okay, so I think maybe that's like a boundary for her.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think that's also partially setting a boundary. Like, I think that by making it clear, I like not even don't want to entertain, but like I literally, this is not good for me to hear. That's setting a boundary. Like, part of me, one thing I've realized, like, especially as I form new friendships in coming to New York, is that like setting boundaries can look so different from college being like, I need this time alone because I just realized I need alone time in the day. Like, sometimes it can literally be like, yes, I can do this thing for you, and no, I cannot do this thing for you, and it's okay to say no. I think there's this like uncomfort, like it's just uncomfortable to have to say no to friends, right? So often, because it feels like you're letting the other person down. But it's also like, I may not have the capacity to do XYZ for you, or like show up for you in this way here, but I will in this way. And I also think that because every person is different, the things that they may need out of you may be different than what you need out of them. And so it's like, how can you still meet your friends in their needs, but also set those boundaries of like, I'm just not capable, right, of doing like some people literally are just like, they will drop everything they're doing for like everyone, like genuinely. And I think I struggle because I'm so like detail and schedule oriented with just dropping everything all the time. Like, and I think because some of the people that I know here especially are like that, they expect me to be that same way. And like, you feel so guilty, like having to set the boundary of like, for example, you know, I don't love like a random call. And so sometimes you'll say on the phone with me, you're like, oh, are you free right now? Like, are you free right now to even talk? Because maybe it's like it's a clear boundary for me, like that or it's just clear how I kind of am with my day often. And so it's like, rather than being like, I may need this thing from her now, or I may need this thing from her at this time, like, I'm going to at least see if they're available to do this thing. You know, like, I think that sometimes even setting the boundary isn't explicitly saying it, like, oh, I need a little bit of a heads up if you would like something. Like, sometimes you just can't do that. But I think it's just understanding and knowing who your friend is and, like, what they are like. Like, even when we talk about with type A versus type B, like, just knowing kind of who your friend is and embracing that, and then sometimes just, like, treating them accordingly. I also think that's a form of setting boundary, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's why I think of you as someone that's good at setting boundaries, because your phone will just be off. Like, it's you can't even reach.
You can't contact me.
She's talking about, oh, I'm not available. The phone is off, so it doesn't even matter. Like, even if she was available, like,
they said I took a page out of your book the other day because I was calling them and they weren't picking up, and they were like, so I took a page out of your book and turned my phone off. I was like, you know what? Good for you. It worked, didn't it? They're like, yeah, it did. Like, it gets the job done.
And it probably, but that's the thing about boundaries, right? It probably, like, annoys people sometimes.
Oh, yeah,
like,
for sure.
It probably upsets people, like, but this is just, like, this is just what you be doing. But it's, like, a boundary you've set so that you can get your work done, which is also important. So I do think it's, like a balance, right? Because sometimes you can't always drop everything. I think if I'm available and I know I have the capacity, then I will. Yeah. And if I can't, then I will say that. And it's like knowing that, okay, but when I do help you, you know? So like it's not like I'm always saying no. But I do think that's a hard balance, especially because, right, you want to be available, you want to be helpful, but like everyone, and luckily, if you're not, somebody else will be. Usually,
that's also true.
hopefully,
like,
hopefully they will
not
just
like,
be
you're the
high
only
and
person who
dry.
can do this, and then you're like, well, okay, like at this point, I gotta do, like, hello.
Then we gotta bang down your door to contact you because
I actually had this conversation with a friend recently of like, you're funny, of like, how can I know what you're, I mean, you literally said people should know what I'm thinking without me saying it, but someone literally said to me, like, how can I know, because we had an argument, we had the conflict, we had a conversation, and they're like, how can I know that you are feeling or thinking this way without you telling me? Like that, for example, me asking you to do things like often sometimes stresses you out because you feel horrible saying no, so you like casually say maybe. And I was like, that's true. Like, and it's just so important to be like, it's not even like I have to be the most direct person, but just to be honest and like, yes, I'm available. No, I'm not available. And understand that like someone who is truly your friend will respect and understand that you are someone who cares about them and wants to be able to at times, but just genuinely like you also have a lot on your plate, and the same way they do, like sometimes you just can't, you know, sometimes you just can't be available.
Is there anything else you wanted to say on this topic that you didn't get a chance to?
That's a good question. Yes, there is. So I talked a little bit about this. This is like something that I really think friendships that, even if it's been, no, I honestly think it's important for longer, like either childhood friendships or friendships you've had for a long time to do. And like me and a few close friends did this recently, and I know I've talked about it and like alluded to it a little bit here, but I think that there's this like, there's sort of a, there's a natural way a relationship forms where you get to a stage that you feel like you know each other so well and you know how the person's like feeling and how they view your friendship, right? But you also might not know how they need to be loved. And I think that we talk about love languages so romantically, like that has been a topic of conversation in like the forming of romantic relationships so often. Or like in dating, people quickly be like, oh, what are your love languages, to know how they can show up for that person. But I really think we need to talk about love languages like platonically. And I found that like my most, like one recent conversation with friends where we just genuinely all said like, these are my love languages and these are the ways I want to be shown up for, and also like to show up for others, because I think there's a difference in how you show love easily and how you like just a way you really love to be loved, like something you love being shown up for in. And it was so wonderful because not only is it like eye-opening, like, oh wow, I did not know this about you at all, and we've grown up together, but I also think that it's actionable. Like, I think that after you do something like that, you can take intentional steps in your friendship to show up for the people that you care about the ways that they need it, because it's so easy to not tell people how you need to be shown up for. And so I just think that like it's so valuable to, in your platonic relationship and platonic, like just your friendships, talk about your love languages and to be comfortable asking your friends to meet you there, like genuinely to meet you where you need love. Like if there are gaps in your friendship, if there are gaps in the ways you've been shown up for, saying it. I just think it's so important.
I love what you were saying about like being intentional about asking your friends, because it's true. It's not just for romantic relationships. And when you like when you know how someone wants to be loved, then you're able to do it. You're able to be more intentional about that versus just doing whatever you think they want, which may not be actually what they want.
It might just be what you want. Like the way you said that you at least find that you enjoy a certain way of showing love, but you receive love differently.
Yeah. And that's still something I need to like work on, because I like gift giving. So it's like I'm always gonna give you a gift, but then I have to remember, but they like it may not be their main thing. I don't know if anyone's mad. So I have to try and do other stuff too.
That's true though. I know what you mean. Like it could be different for the other person what they value, or like what would be a higher, not even higher rank, but what would be more important to them as a love language. And that's the thing, you won't know unless you ask.
Exactly.
And it's just it feels so random to ask when you've known someone for so long.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, but I just think it's a beautiful thing when you do realize, oh wait, we can kind of clean slate, like start showing up for each other in the ways that we need to be shown up for. It's really, really great.
Yeah, it's never too late. So how have things changed for you now that you've learned it's more important to be yourself than to be liked? You've grown through these like friendships changing. Who are you now?
Yeah, I would say that I think I'm more genuine and authentic in my friendships. Like, I think that there are rarely things I'm leaving unsaid just because I can understand that people might not know everything I'm thinking or feeling, but that those who are closest to me still want to show up for me and show me love because I just get to be myself and they still love me for it, right? So a big part of being myself is telling them the ways that, right, I need to be loved and telling them the ways that I might be struggling through this or that right now. And also asking them how I can be better. I also think that being called out sometimes, like in friendships, has actually been helpful for me because it's forced me to like it's really just like held up the mirror to me, like to my face, and been like, okay, even though you think you're showing up for people in these ways, like it's okay that you've let them down. Like it is okay because they're willing to move past this, but what are the actionable steps I can take moving forward? And so like I think it's so important. It's been so important for me to like actually talk out those steps with friends. Like it sounds so weird and like structured to be like, what can I do better moving forward? But I actually think it's like an important conversation for most friends to be having. Because rather than take that conflict and say we just resolved it, it's over. You're like, what can we do in the future so that this way I hurt you doesn't, I can just keep from doing it again, right? At least like consciously, like I just would seek to not hurt you that way again, right? So I believe that it's made me a better friend, and I think that at least most of my closest friendships could say that it's made like the friendship stronger because it's like rooted in understanding and trust and vulnerability. I think it's so vulnerable to have some of these conversations.
Yeah.
But like most of all rooted in love. And I think that's like the most important thing. So I would say that's the lesson I've learned. And then the ways in which I've grown. Like I really do think I can always be a better friend. Like I don't think that's ever just gonna stop. Like I'm now great at it. But like I do think that like I have just placed that as such an important aspect in my life, like being a better friend to those around me, but also seeking like very deep quality friendships. And the only way to do that is like just to confront things that naturally you would think would be uncomfortable, but like are really important to talk about.
Yeah, that's so good. I love what you said. Vulnerability rooted in love. So so good.
That's so sweetie.
So I hope you're leaving this conversation with the encouragement to just get deep with your friends, to just be honest about things that are going well, things that aren't going well. It's actually funny, while we were recording this, we had like a friendship check-in, and obviously I cut it out of the episode, but it was just nice to reflect on like, okay, what's going well, what isn't going well, how can we work on certain things that we just don't really talk about. And whether it's with a long distance friend, with a friend that you see every week, I think it never hurts to take a step back and just be honest about how you're feeling, and remembering that, yeah, this all takes work and it all takes honesty and transparency, to just be real about how you can show up in whatever season that you're in. I think makes all the difference. So as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this conversation. If there's anything that you have a different perspective on, if there's anything that you feel strongly about, please let me know. If you're listening on Spotify or on YouTube, you can leave a comment. You can also reach me at the Making Space podcast on Instagram, where you should also follow for more content. Please share the podcast with someone who would benefit from hearing our conversation, and I will see you on the next episode of Making Space.